Hi guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Lisa. I am 22 years old, and today I'm going to be talking to you guys about how I delivered my son, my birth story. I had posted like this little poll on Instagram, and a lot of you guys wanted to know the story of my son. If you guys don't follow me on Instagram, I'll leave my @ down below so you guys could go check it out. I posted like a little 5-minute video on IGTV introducing me and my baby, and a lot of you guys were interested on the birth of my son, so I'm just going to talk to you guys about that. For those of you who don't know, my son was born on March 11th, and my due date with him wasn't supposed to be until the 16th, so he actually came about 5 days early. And I got really big with my son. When I say really big, I gained about 50 pounds, and I know that's a lot. I guess you're supposed to only gain about 30 pounds your first pregnancy, but I mean, it varies. Everybody's bodies is different. So yeah, I gained 50 pounds, which was a lot. And he was a big baby. He was almost an 8-pounder. And yeah, I mean, he was head down for almost like 2 months early, and I actually thought he was gonna come earlier than my due date, way earlier, because he was head down for so long. So on around 2 days before my water broke, me and my husband, we went to go walk around in San Clemente, and we walked a lot that day. We walked up this really steep hill, and I remember going up this hill, I was thinking in my head like, oh my god, this walk is about to put me into labor, because I was so tired. And I kept telling him how I needed breaks, because like my belly was so big and I couldn't even see my feet. But I didn't go into labor that night. So we got back home, and I started getting like a little bit of contractions, but nothing like seguido. I don't even know how you say that in English. Nothing like back to back or anything too painful. Then the next day came around, and I remember his parents had flew in from Texas that day, the day before actually. And I really wanted this baby to come when his parents were in town. So I was like Googling stuff. I was watching a bunch of YouTube videos on like how to induce your own labor, because I was already at 39 weeks. So it's pretty safe for you to start inducing your labor. And at this point, I had already gotten checked by my doctor, and I was about 1.5 centimeters dilated. And I seen that a lot of people were saying, oh, eat pineapple, or eat spicy stuff. I know a bunch of you guys know about that too. Eat spicy stuff to induce your labor. So girl, the day before I went into labor, I'm telling you, I had the biggest bowl of pineapple, and I remember, and I had this big exercising ball, because they say that helps you to go into labor also. So I was sitting on my big ball, bouncing up and down in the living room with my husband's family. We were all like chit-chatting and, you know, just talking. I was sitting on my big ball, bouncing, eating this huge bowl of pineapple. And I remember just thinking, I'm like, man, I really hope this baby comes within this week that his parents are here, because that would be so cool. Like, it's their first grandbaby. Like, it would be a good experience for all of us. And sure enough, that night, because my husband, he's in the military, so he usually comes to my house on the weekend. So he'll be here from Friday to Sunday, or sometimes he'll leave early Monday morning to get back to base. So I remember he got up to leave at around 4 o'clock in the morning that Monday. And usually when he leaves, I usually get up and walk into the door and I say bye. But I remember that morning I wasn't feeling good, or I was just so tired and I did not want to get out of bed. So I was just laying there, and I told him, like, go ahead. I'm like, just take the key and I'll see you on the weekend. And I said, or maybe if the baby comes sooner, I'll probably see you in the middle of the week. I had no idea that this baby was going to come out of me that day. So then a couple minutes went by, and I just kept tossing and turning, and I kept getting like little pains. And then I got up to go to the restroom, and I noticed that this might be a little TMI for some people, but I noticed that my underwear were super like wet, and I was like, okay, is this my water? Is it not? So I didn't really know. I changed my underwear and I called the OB at the hospital and I let them know, like, you know what, I've been getting like a little bit of pains, but nothing back to back. Like, I've been counting the minutes and it's not every 5 minutes, but I did wake up and it was very wet, and they let me know, like, oh, you know, you're fine as long as you're not, as long as your contractions aren't back to back or 5 minutes apart, then you could go ahead and stay home. And I remember the lady telling me too, like, a bunch of people come in too, and they might be like 3 centimeters dilated, but we still send them home because their water's not even broken. And so I'm like, okay, it's probably nothing. And then around, so remind you, I called the hospital like around 5 in the morning. So after that, I couldn't go back to sleep. I kept tossing and turning. And once it hit around 7 in the morning is when I started getting really bad contractions. And I kept timing them. And oh boy, they were coming every 5 minutes. If they were not coming every 5 minutes, they were coming every 6 to 7 minutes, but nothing longer than that. And my contractions were lasting about a minute long to about 45 seconds. And I got up and I drank my tea. I was like trying to calm myself down because I was thinking in my head, like, oh no, this is nothing yet. Like, I know that I'm not gonna go into labor today. And I remember I was sitting on my exercise ball, this big old ball, in front of my TV, watching Netflix, just bouncing on my ball, drinking my tea. And my contractions were coming, and they were coming hard. And around 8:30 was when I called the hospital again, and I said, hey, I called you guys around 5 in the morning and yada yada yada. I told you guys this was happening, and I'm calling you guys back because my contractions are coming every 5 minutes. So then the lady was super nice. She told me, she's like, you know what, go ahead and like take a shower and come in. We're gonna do like an examination to see if your water broke, but don't be in a rush or anything. Like, just stay calm and come in. So I was like, okay. So I did just that. I like, now that I think about it, it is nothing on how you see in the movies. It's not like you're running to the hospital in the freeway, swerving around. Like, no, it's not like that. I took a shower, I put on some makeup, I blow dried my hair, I got all my stuff ready. I already had all my stuff packed, but you know, I was just getting like the last minute things, putting them in my bag. And I told my mom, I'm like, all right, let's go. So my mom and my mother-in-law drove me to the hospital, and I got there, and this rude lady comes in and checks me, and she's like, oh yeah, like, your water definitely didn't break. And I was like, are you sure? I'm like, because my contractions have been coming like pretty frequently. And she's like, yeah, she like showed me like this little strip that she tested like the liquid down there, and she said, usually we put the liquid on this strip, and if it doesn't turn navy blue, then your water, it's not amniotic fluid, pretty much. And I guess the strip wasn't turning navy blue. So she was like, yeah, you're fine. She's like, you are 3 centimeters dilated, but we could still send you home. And in my head, I was thinking, I'm like, oh my God, like, I'm not ready. I don't want to go home. Like, I want to have this baby. And let's backtrack. Like, about a week before, I had went in because I had thought for sure that my water had broke, because I was sitting at the edge of my bed, and once I stood up, like, a bunch of stuff just gushed, and I thought it was my water. And that's when I kind of panicked and I rushed to the hospital. But then they're like, oh yeah, false alarm, like, you could go home. So I let her know that, and they're like, oh yeah, like, a bunch of women come in here, and sometimes we just send them back home because their water isn't broken, so we can't do anything. Like, if you're getting your contractions every 5 minutes but your water hasn't broken, then you could still go home. So I was like, okay, well, hopefully, like, that's not the case. But she said, I'm just on call, and another nurse is gonna come in here and she's gonna check you. And I was like, all right. So I had went into the hospital around 10:30 a.m. and by the time the other nurse came and checked me, I was already there for about an hour. So when the other nurse came and checked me, she didn't even like bring that little paper thing or nothing. Like, as soon as she seen what was going on down there, she's like, oh yeah, your water definitely broke. Like, we're gonna admit you. And I was like, yes. I'm like, I'm about to have my baby today. Like, I'm gonna hold my baby. I was so excited, and I was waiting to call my husband's name is Jordan. I was waiting for him to call me because I didn't want to let him know yet and be like, hey, like, you have to rush to the hospital right now, because I want to know for sure that I was going to deliver my baby. So I didn't call him until around noon, and I called him and I said, hey, and pretty much he's stationed out in Oceanside, so that's about like an hour and a half, an hour and 45 minutes, sometimes 2 hours depending on traffic. So I called him and I said, hey, yeah, I'm at the hospital and they checked me and my water broke and I'm gonna be admitted to the hospital. I might be going into labor and pushing out this baby in like the next few hours. And he was like, what? Like, oh my God, like, okay, let me tell my leader, like, I'm gonna be driving down there, so all that good stuff. But I told him not to rush, because at the same time I was scared too, because I didn't want him to be reckless driving out here because I'm in the hospital. And I asked the nurse too, I said, am I gonna be having it in a couple hours, or am I gonna be having it, like, do you see me being here for more than 15 hours? And she's like, right now, you're gonna be here a while because you're not progressing yet. I was like, okay, cool. So I told him to take his time. So to give you guys like a time frame, like I said, I got there at 10:30 in the morning and I didn't have my son until almost 10 at night. So so then the nurse told me, so that she came and admitted me and she put me all this stuff on my wrist. She hooked me up onto an IV and she said, we're gonna come check on you in about an hour and a half, and if you're still not dilating, then we're gonna put you Pitocin. So it's like, okay. So I was hoping that my body would naturally just, you know, take its course and just dilate on its own. But by the time that the nurse came back into the room, she had checked me and she said, oh yeah, you're not dilating, and since your water broke around 5 in the morning, you're already been like 6 hours without the baby having water in there, so we're gonna put you Pitocin. So I was like, all right. So they did that, and she had specifically told me, saying, if you don't feel your contractions being as harsh right now, get ready, because when we put you on this Pitocin, they're gonna hit you like a train, girl. And I was like, okay, like, I need to get myself mentally ready, because I was going into this hospital thinking in my head, like, you know what, I'm gonna try to be as strong as I can, and I want to see how long I could last with no drugs, or because I really didn't want to get the epidural, because my sister and my mom, they didn't get the epidural for their kids, and I wanted to be like that strong mom telling everybody like, oh no, I didn't get the epidural, like, I'm this strong bitch that I didn't get the epidural. But yeah, that didn't quite happen. So once they put me the Pitocin, around like an hour passes and I started feeling the contractions, and they were coming hard. And it got to the point where I just felt that they were coming every 30 seconds. And I could still bear with them because I feel like I have a pretty high pain tolerance. And so then the nurse came and she told me about the options I had. She said, okay, you could either get the epidural now, and at this point I was still about 4.5 centimeters dilated and I still had a long way to go. She said, either you could get the epidural now, or we could put you this other medicine. I forgot what it's called. Pretty much it's it goes through your IV, and it's supposed to like calm you down. I mean, you're still gonna feel the contractions, but they're not gonna be as strong. Like, it'll be more of like a breeze when they come. So I was like, okay, like, let's try that. And so she came and she put that medicine through my IV, and honestly, it just made me feel like drunk. I remember telling Jordan, oh my God, I feel so drunk, because I just felt like loopy. Like, I felt like my eyes like were super heavy, and I was just like kind of out of it, and I could still feel my contractions coming, and they still hurt obviously, but I just felt like kind of like loose. And so I was chilling on that IV medication for about, I want to say maybe 3 hours. So by this time it was already around 6. And so then that's when my contractions started getting really bad. And I remember I remember this in my head, and I'm just like, oh my God, like, I was in so much pain. I remember just laying on the hospital bed, just getting my contractions, just holding on to the bars on the hospital bed and just closing my eyes, and my tears were just like coming out of my eyes, and I was just thinking like, oh my god, like I give all the moms out there so much props if you guys didn't get the epidural, because man, like giving birth is no freaking joke. Um, so I was laying there, and you know what? And then this is when the one who was gonna deliver my baby, I forgot her name. I think her name was like Dr. Dixon. She was super cool. She came in, and then she seen how I was in pain, and I was just with my tears, just laying there miserable. And she comes and she goes, "Oh, sweetie," she's like, "You don't want to get the epidural?" And I was telling her, I'm like, I just wanted to see like how far I could go without getting an epidural, because I really didn't want to get one. And she looked at me and she like kind of chuckled, and she said, "Do you really?" Now I think about it, I'm like, this, it was kind of like not bitchy, but I could like, now I think about it, it's funny to me. She looked at me and she kind of chuckled, and she's like, "Do you really think that you were gonna get through this without no drugs?" And in my head, I was like, "Bitch, are you saying like I'm not strong enough?" And I kind of looked at her and I was like, "Well, maybe." So then she told me, she's like, "I'm gonna come back in like 20 minutes. And if you're still suffering like you are right now, I'm gonna ask you again if you want the epidural. But this is gonna be your last chance for you to get it." Because I was almost at 6 centimeters. And once you hit the 6 centimeters, you can't get it anymore. So I was like, okay. So I remember I was looking at Jordan, and I told him like, you know what, I think I'm gonna get it. And me and him had talked about it before, and saying like, you know what, like you have to be strong and like see if you don't have to get any drugs or whatever. So I said, I'm like, I think I'm gonna get it, because I was in so much pain. He's like, okay, like if you need it, then you just like go ahead, like get it. And so in that whole time frame, my sister had came, and she saw how I was in so much pain, and she started crying. She's like, "Oh my god, sister, like everything's gonna be okay. Like I promise you this pain will go away once you see your baby. Like just hang in there." And I was telling her, I'm like, I think I'm gonna get that epidural. She's like, "You know what, if you need it, then you need it." She's like, you look, she was telling me like, "You look so miserable, like you're in so much pain." And I was like, "Yeah, I am." So then the doctor came, and she asked me like, "Okay, so are you ready for the epidural? Like, do you want the epidural?" And I was like, "Yes." So then she said, "Okay." The doctor's finishing up, the anesthesiologist. I don't know how to say that word. Basically, the person who comes and sticks a big ass needle in your back. She said he's finishing up with another patient, then he'll come over here. So meanwhile, I was like filling out my paperwork, signing, blah blah blah. And then they let me know that no one could be in the room with me. And I was looking at birth vlogs on YouTube, and about 50-50 of them were saying how one person, which it could either be your significant other or a person of your choice, to be in the room with you when you get the epidural, or some of the videos were that no one could be in the room with you. So I was kind of ready, and I wanted Jordan to be in the room with me, but obviously in this case they told me that no one could be in the room with me. So that kind of freaked me out, and I started getting scared. So I was like, okay. So everyone had to leave, and they said, okay, it's gonna take this whole procedure is gonna be like about an hour, and when she's done, you guys could come back in the room. So everyone left, and they helped me stand up, well, sit up on the bed. And the doctor was telling me, she said, you have to stay really, really still. And you know, now that I think about it, the way she was prepping me, it kind of freaked me out, because she was basically saying like, you better not move or else you're gonna get paralyzed. I mean, obviously she didn't say it like that, but in my head it was like that, because she was telling me, even though you get contractions and I know they hurt and I know you get uncomfortable, you have to stay really, really still. So I was like, oh my god. So, and I asked her too, I'm like, so even if I get a contraction while he's sticking that freaking needle, I have to stay still and I can't move? And she's like, no, you can't. She's like, all I want you to do is just hold on to my hands and just grip them as tight as you want. And I was like, okay. So So he was like feeling my back, and then he said, okay, I'm gonna do the which is in right here. And it was like the lower part of my back. And he said, okay, on the count of 3, you're gonna feel some stinging, which is you're gonna feel the, I don't know, the medicine or the drugs going in you pretty much. He's like, but after that, you'll be fine. You'll only feel the stinging for about 10 seconds. So I was like, okay. So I mentally prepared myself, and oh my gosh, mind you, I don't like shots to begin with. I don't like needles. And every time I tell my mom that, she laughs because she's like, well, you got 2 tattoos. You weren't afraid of needles then. It's different, okay? Because I didn't even want it. Like, I literally like looked to the side of me and I seen the big ass needle that they were about to freaking puncture me with. And I was freaking out. But you know what? I was like, time to put on your big girl pants, Lisa, because you're about to push out this baby. So I held on to the nurse's hands, and I was just like counting in my head. I'm like, oh shit, okay. So once I feel the poke, you have to count 10 seconds. So I felt the needle go in. So I was going 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi. And once I got to the 5 Mississippi, I got a really bad contraction. And oh, I remember just gripping onto that poor nurse's hands. And I swear her hands might have almost turned purple because I was holding onto them so tight. And yeah, once I got to the 10 Mississippi, the pain was gone. And that's it. I remember once I got done counting to 10, the relief through my body, man, honestly, thank God for the epidural, because wow, I did not feel any pain after that. I was like, I did a whole 360 on my personality and how I was acting. Once my mom and my husband and my sister came and seen me again, they're like, oh my God, you look so much better. Like, you're smiling, you're happy, you're talking to us, like you don't seem in pain. And I'm like, no, because I wasn't. I was just chilling right after that. After that, it was a smooth ride. I was chilling. So I got my epidural at about maybe 7 p.m. And then they kept coming in, checking on me, and they said that they couldn't really find the baby's heartbeat, that he was moving a lot. And by this time, it was around 8, and they said, we're going to come and check on you in another 30 minutes. And if we still can't find the baby's heartbeat, we're going to have to put a monitor on top of his head, because he was sitting really, really low. And we'll see like how his heartbeat is then, because now they were scaring me, basically saying that they can't find the baby's heartbeat. And if they can't find the baby's heartbeat, then they were going to have to do probably a C-section. So I was like, okay. So about 45 minutes passed, and by this time it was already about to be 9. And she comes in and she's like kind of like fidgeting. She's like, oh my God, like we don't really do this on patients because we don't really have all the right materials for it. But she said, this is like the last one that we have here. Like, we're waiting on an order, whatever the heck of the machine that they were going to put on the baby's head. So she opened it and she was about to do all that. And she's like, oh my God, no wonder we can't feel the baby's heartbeat. You're ready to push. You're at 10 centimeters. And I was like, holy shit, what? I was like, wait, what? Like, I'm not ready. Like, I thought I still had some time to compose myself. And my mom wasn't even there. My mom was out with a friend, freaking eating a hamburger, because the nurse had told me that it was still gonna be a while. So I told Jordan, I'm like, hey, you need to call my mom and tell her to come right now and tell your mom to come up because I'm ready to push. So he's like, okay. So he called my mom. So by this time the nurse was having me do like some practice pushes, and she's like, oh my God, like you're ready. Like you could push right now. And I was like, no, wait. I'm like, we need to wait for my mom to get here. So my mom got there like around 9:15. I started doing my practice pushes. By the time it was 9:30, she said, all right, these are the real pushes now. Like your baby is about to come. I was like, all right. And then I did my first push, and, you know, all the doctors are all around you. They're like, oh my God, you're doing great. You're doing great, sweetie. Keep on going, keep pushing. And then the doctor goes, do you want to feel his head? And I was like, oh, okay. So I felt his head, which was pretty cool. It was crazy. And it's so funny because Jordan tells me that he was like, it's so crazy how a baby comes into this world. And I wish that there would be like a mirror, because I would want to see it. At the same time, I kind of would have got freaked out, but at the same time I wanted to see it, because he said that it literally looked like an inflated balloon that just comes out and just poof, and boom, your baby's here. So I did about 6 pushes, and my baby boy came into this world, and it was one of the most amazing and incredible experiences ever in my life. It is such a trip on how women carry a baby in their womb for 9 months and they grow a human being. Like, to me, I see my baby when I wake up every morning and I look at him, I'm just like, damn, like I did that. Obviously Jordan helped too, but it's like, damn, I did that. Like, I created a human inside of me. Like, it's crazy. And I thank God for allowing me to be a mom and be able to create a beautiful baby boy. And it's just amazing how a lot of people take that for granted sometimes, but it was definitely an experience. And would I do it again? If you would have asked me that within the first 2 weeks of having my baby, I would have told you hell no, because it's freaking hard. And that's going to be another video in itself on explaining to you guys on how being a first-time mom is, because it is hard. The first 2 weeks are super hard. But now that he's 2 months and a week old, I would have another baby, because it's so cool, like seeing them grow and grow every day, and like just getting into the routine and that mom instinct you have of what they want when they need it, and there's certain cries and there's certain facial expressions, and you just know on like, okay, he's hungry, or he wants a diaper change, or he just wants to be held, or he's uncomfortable. It's crazy how we just know as being moms. But yeah, I would definitely do it again. But yeah, this is my birth story. And now I'm going to introduce you guys to the star of the show. This is my baby boy, James Alexander. He is 2 months and a week, and he's throwing up the peace sign. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know it was kind of on the long side, but I just wanted to put all the little details in there. This is my first little story time on my channel. So hopefully you'll be seeing more of me and my baby. Make sure to like and comment down below if you're a mommy. And make sure to follow me on my Instagram. I put a lot of polls and different videos of me and my baby on Instagram stories. Make sure to go check out that little IGTV that I posted introducing me and him. But yeah, that is it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.